at the table.
That's right.
You decide at home. Now, more insight into where the president's head is on this. I am putting arguments out there that he's saying, but he's saying them himself, and he's saying it to reporters, okay? Maggie Haberman is home, recovering from surgery, and she gets a phone call from the president of the United States through his assistant. He wants to talk to the New York Times, specifically to Maggie, about this. And he says, I'm not under investigation. You read this in Maggie's piece. As you know, the investigation, has nothing to do with us. Now, that's not true. The special prosecutor is looking at the dismissal of Comey by all indications. What are those indications? The documents that he's asking for tells you which way he's going. So the president in that context must be under investigation. But what does Maggie Haberman have to say? CNN political analyst joins us now by phone, once again breaking records for recovery. I couldn't even look at people, let alone talk on the phone when I was in the shape that you're in. But you got a call from the president. Please tell us about it, my friend, and I hope you're doing well.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. So just to add a little bit of clarity, I had been asked to help out on one thing by my editor, so I made a phone call to a staff member about it. I was not expecting to get a call from him back, and then suddenly the phone rang, and it was his assistant looking to have a conversation. You know, he clearly, as you know very well, he loves feeling like he can control a narrative, and clearly the stories about how angry he is about all of this, true or not, were bothering him. He was projecting a very clear aura of calm, whether that is true or not. That was obviously what he wanted to get across. I will say, and I think you know this as well, he is one of these people who vents and sort of blows off steam, and it can be a pretty messy storm, and then he's fine, and then the storm will come back again later. My sense from talking to a lot of aides in the White House is that that is how he has been dealing with this. Look, they knew that an indictment was likely coming against Paul Manafort. Rick Gates, Manafort's longtime deputy, was not a surprise. They tend to go hand in hand. I think that George Papadopoulos, the foreign policy aide, surprised them in terms of his guilty plea, and certainly the fact that Sam Clovis had gone in to be interviewed, not that he might be, but just that it had happened, and the way it happened caught people off guard. But you are dealing with a White House that has been in this surreal, having to go to work every day, knowing that this Russia investigation is going on for a while. I think there's a difference between how Trump is feeling about it and how his aides are. What we know is he's doing what he always does, which is he's watching a lot of television, and he's paying very close attention to the coverage about this.
Let me ask you something. When he was talking about the fact that he's not under investigation, did you feel that he was putting that on you as a suggestion, that he wanted to make that known, make that case, or do you think he actually believes that he's not under investigation?
As you know, it is often very hard to tell the difference between whether he actually believes the things he is saying that, in some cases are demonstrably not true. And in this case, all evidence points to the fact that it's not true, though federal prosecutors are not able to actually say that in terms of how they deal with the media. I couldn't tell. I think he wants people to think that he is not, and I think he wants to convince himself that he is not to some extent. But as you said before, this is an investigation that touches on him, and we have heard from several people that obstruction of justice is one aspect that's being looked at that points right to the president.
What was your biggest takeaway from this? I mean, a little unusual. You have amazing access to the president, and journalism is better for it. But this call had to be a little bit of a surprise. What was your take on what's going on?
Yeah, it surprised me. I mean, I was caught off guard by it. My take is just that I think that he's trying to manage the one thing he can try to manage in his mind, which is, how his own words are interpreted. I think he really was upset about, there were two stories. There was a Washington Post story and a Vanity Fair story, both of which portrayed him as sort of, lashing out in a constant state of freak out. And again, my understanding is that is not true. I think that it is certainly true that he's mad. I certainly think it's true that he's frustrated by this. But he, I think, felt like, again, he didn't say this. This is my read. I think as he heads into this Asia trip, stories about him, out of control and unable to do anything, and just sort of sitting here watching this as a spectator, I think make him feel hapless. He's about to go on this very lengthy diplomatic trip, and I think he wants to try to project some aura of strength regardless of what's happening.
I mean, it doesn't sound like he gave you a whole lot of basis to report that he isn't consumed or slash distracted, as General Kelly said, John Kelly
He's
said.
definitely consumed and distracted. I think the difference is whether he's running around yelling, and I think that's sort of the distinction. But look, he's obsessed with his own coverage, and this is yet another element of it. So is he sitting around watching a lot of television about this? Absolutely.
Did he talk at all? You mentioned this Asia trip, and you're spot on about its importance. I mean, especially early on in an administration like this many countries, this many issues on the table. He may well meet with Vladimir Putin on this trip. Did he talk about that at all? Is it all in his focus in terms of how he's getting prepared for it and his level of confidence going into it?
No, he referenced. He just referenced that he was excited to go. He made some brief reference to China. But there was nothing. There was nothing specific, and there was nothing really to discern from it. Everyone has heard. I think Jeff Zeleny has reported this as well. That prepping him has been difficult for this. Prepping him under any circumstance is different because he has a very limited attention span. But I think this has been harder right now. But I think that most aides think that this is a good thing to try to shift his attention off of current events at home.
Maggie, calling in on convalescence, above and beyond the call of duty. Thank you, my friend. A speedy recovery to you. I look forward to seeing you on set soon. Thank you for the reporting.
See you soon.
All right, be well. And a quick point here. Just, we have a blessing on this show. As you know, the president is often watching, so you get to speak directly to the president of the United States. He should want to be under investigation. And here's why. I know that comes with an ugly patina.
Why, Counselor?
Here's why. Because what he wants at the end of this day is for the special counsel to be able to go to Rod Rosenstein. Because remember,